Hey everybody, it's Romania Black, and we're kind of on the penultimate episode of Death Parade. I'm not gonna lie, I've waited a little bit. I watched episodes like 8, 9, and 10, like just back to back to back, because I was really wanting to see what was gonna happen. And then with this episode, I was like, oh, we've only got one more after this. Oh no. So I waited a little bit. I was like, I don't want Death Parade to end. That's the whole thing with like 12 episode series. You know, when it's a season, you're like, oh, I got season 2 to look forward to. I got all this. But when it's only a 12 episode series, it feels like it goes way too quickly. And so I've been kind of dreading the end of this series because I really like it. But here we are. And so we finally know Chiyuki. Chiyuki is the name of our black-haired girl. We know her. We know that Decim is going through a crisis because he doesn't think he can judge anymore, but that's his job as an arbiter. Oculus is the scariest thing in the world. And no, what do we do with her? What does Ginti have going on? He looked kind of ominous in the last episode. I just don't know what's going to happen, y'all. And I'm very curious. So I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I've got a couple comments I want to talk about before we start. And Tony Simi talked about with episodes 8 and 9 that the VA for Shimada is also the same as Geto, Fitzgerald, Miyuki, and Reagan, right? Aren't they all the same voice actor? I didn't recognize it. And that Tatsumi's VA is also Hannes from Attack on Titan. So that's interesting. I can kind of hear Hannes in that voice a little bit. And the black-haired girl, Chiyuki, the thing of it is she broke the stick that was used to escalate the situation in one of the previous episodes. But I was like telling Tony Simi, I was like, Decim also doesn't like using that stick, so I think that was a nice, convenient way for him to be like, oh, well, the stick was broken, I can't use it. But he wasn't using it anyway, so it was kind of like a little situation like that. He didn't try to fix it as soon as it was broken, right? K.A. also noted that Tatsumi's wife is the same VA as Marin from Dragon Ball Z, and also played Robin from One Piece for a while, which I thought was rather interesting. And then finally, Sunspots was talking about that the dub of 8 and 9 are actually interesting and kind of frame things a little bit differently or clearer. I haven't got a chance to watch much of the dub for this series, but I have a feeling that once I'm finished, I'm going to want to go back and watch it before we do the live stream. So I definitely will probably take that opportunity to go back and rewatch in the dub before we do that and kind of get those moments. So thank you, Sunspot. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this episode, but I'm really sad that we're down to just the last 2. We do have an audio drama after that, which is a lot of fun. But yeah, I'm really sad, y'all. I'm really sad. So, and I don't know what to expect because the last episode, other than Ginti planning something maybe sinister and Decim trying to we're going to hopefully do a flashback with Chiyuki and figure out how did she die, what's the situation. Other than that, I don't know what we're going to get. So there's a lot of mystery and it's the penultimate episode. So what can we do, right? So we're going to find out. But real quick, I want to give a special shout out over to the philanthropy tier over on Patreon. Just to thank them for all that they do. I have different tiers on Patreon that y'all can go check out. But the philanthropy tier, they go that extra mile each month to try to help me to pay for streaming services and things like that, manga and anime that I react and review from. And a lot of the anime that I'm watching have a lot of manga with them. So that's helped me kind of pay for that. So thank you all so very much. But I give a special shout out to our philanthropy tier people. And so I want to give a special shout out to Edgar, to Anime Annie, to Dana, to Nameless Monster, to Tyrone, to Shimoyama, to Be Happy, to Eric, to Sunspots, to Translucent Men, to Alex Cornejo, to Truck Isabel, as well as Lude Genesis. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate your support, and I hope you all keep enjoying these reactions and discussions. All of my love. So yeah, I have no clue what we're going to get, but I'm hoping we get some flashbacks and maybe it won't be anything too crazy, right? Right. So we're not going to waste any more time. We're going to make sure our subtitles are on. They are. And we're going to make sure our subtitles are on, and we are going to start episode 11 of Death Parade. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. And let's do this, y'all. I am so frustrated with my internet service for this reaction. I'm not frustrated with the episode. The episode was amazing, and we only have one left, and Decim has taken matters into his own hands, and Ginti, oh my god, but I was so frustrated throughout this, so I'm gonna go ahead and apologize in advance if the timer does not sync up with the reaction, because for some reason, now it looks like it's great. For some reason, my service was terrible, and it kept either Crunchyroll crashed like 3 times during the reaction, or it would just stop and spin, and I was like, no. Luckily, it wasn't like, this episode wasn't a dramatic tour de force of like nonstop action, which the beauty of this episode was just telling Chiyuki's story. But I was just so frustrated. I was like, no. And then thankfully, I'm going to definitely check things for the final episode, because I have a feeling the final episode is going to be a little bit more action packed maybe than this one, because Oculus has now gotten near Nona. I'm sure he's going to do that weird face hugger thing to find out what she's doing, and that she's given an arbiter emotions. But oh my god, so the darkness within Chiyuki is nothing that she did to anyone else. It was just within herself. And that's so, god, it's so heartbreaking in some respects, because Chiyuki has been this like champion for the people this entire season, where she's been the one telling Decim like, oh, you know, we should judge people hand in hand, and, you know, don't push them to the extremes like this. You're just creating more trauma than you're actually solving. And Decim, it kind of reverses in this episode, where she sort of gets kind of nihilistic at the end, and has the big speech with Decim, and Decim's kind of like, oh no, but I like you. And it's like, I'm like, show, I don't get good vibes, because I know something bad's gonna happen. This show, damn it, why did you all tell me I was gonna like this show? I do like this show a lot, but it's like, I'm like, but wait. Because I know it's gonna, I've told people in the Discord, I'm like, I'm a happy ending person. I'm the kind of person that's like, oh, I like a happy ending. Like, I can do a little bit of angst, but I want my happy ending. I don't think this is gonna have a happy ending, because she's dead, right? I mean, Chiyuki is dead. So the only way that you can get out of her having an ending is if she becomes an arbiter. But then what do we do with that? So I don't think we're gonna have a happy ending. I'm just like, and Mayu, no, I can't believe that Ginti did that. We need to talk about this. We need to talk about this episode. And of course, now it loads perfectly. There's no big problem, right? Now it's not a big thing. It's just like, whatever happens, happens. But man, so Oculus finding out an arbiter with emotions. Oculus can't have that. No. Because there is a thing here that I'm wondering is at work, because the whole elevator switching, I'm like, has it always done that the entire episode, the entire series? Has it been sending everybody to the void? Has it? But then some went up, right? Some went up in the elevator and some went down, right? So did the ones that, I feel like some went up, right? So I don't know though. I hope in the next episode they tell us, like, has everybody been, like, have all the souls been going to the void this entire time, and there is no reincarnation? I don't know. What do we do? What do we do with that? And then where did all the souls come from if they're not reincarnated? That's, So yeah, what do we do with that information? I don't know, but of course, if the thing is, I'm very curious to know if Oculus wants the arbiters to be emotionless, because they're likely, if they do the games like they do, because we don't know how long Oculus has been there. We know Nona's been there 82 years. We don't know how long Oculus has been there. But it sounds like the games themselves, what Chiyuki was trying to get at in the last couple episodes, was that the games themselves kind of, more often than not, they have a tendency to make characters, make these humans have these dark thoughts and like bring out more trauma and darkness than is actually in their hearts. It creates it, like what they were speculating last episode. And so, of course, when the games put you on edge and bring you to the point of darkness, of course that makes you seem like you're a bad egg. And the arbiters, who don't have human emotions and don't know any different, would be like, oh, well then you're a bad egg. Okay, into the void you go. So part of me is wondering if Oculus, if he had the games created with the arbiters in mind, knowing it was going to make all of the humans seem worse than they are, leading the arbiters to choose to take them all to the void. Maybe that's it, right? Because when we see with Castra's talking about how there's way too many souls, it's overpopulated, there's too much for them to do, and we know that if they go to the void, they're not reincarnated. It's just like a big giant bottomless pit. And so my theory is that Oculus was trying to get as many souls to just go into the void as possible so they wouldn't be reincarnated, and so it would make their jobs easier, right? Because if you have less souls to reincarnate, you have less, you're less pressed for time. So I'm wondering if that's going to be a thing, if they're going to come back to that or not. Either way, Oculus is terrifying. I don't like his character at all. I don't know if I'm going to wait for the next episode. I'm going to make sure my internet connection's good, though, because oh my god. But I'm really surprised about Ginti, but we'll talk about Ginti. I am a little bit surprised about him. But Decim's saying that there is a point to living. The same goes for judgment. Judgment must be performed hand in hand with life and death. It's something performed hand in hand with humans. And for that reason, human emotions. He's like, that's why it's important that we know them. So Chiyuki has, undoubtedly had an effect on Decim. It's made him like his human emotions kind of come out more, right? Which is it's kind of this beautiful thing that Decim, who doesn't really know what life and death is like, wants to believe because of what Chiyuki's told him, that there is a point to living, that we die because we've lived, right? And then we find her story out where she just lost the will to live, and we'll talk about that with the skating, but it's so interesting how they've influenced each other, right, over the course of this series. And then we cut to Nona getting the memories from Chiyuki and saying how pretty they look, and then I like that Queen says, yeah, at first glance they look pretty, but the truth is there are no lives that are nothing but pretty. Every life has darkness in it. What I am glad about, in the weirdest of ways, is I'm glad that Chiyuki's memories didn't reveal that she'd done something horribly bad to someone else. I mean, taking your own life is awful and no one should ever do that. But I like the fact that she didn't actually hurt someone else. It was all just, it was contained. It wasn't something like she didn't kill somebody. Like after the episode with Tasumi and Shimada, I was like, I'm not ready for Chiyuki to be revealed to be a murderer or anything like that. No. And that's not what ends up being the case, right? And we'll compare her and Mayu because there's an interesting comparison between the two there, right? Speaking of which, so Mayu, Harada brings in this dummy, right? And we've seen that the dummy's like, is that really Harada or not? We'll never know. He glanced at her at the end, and that's all she needed to see, but she's like, didn't you go to the void? So Harada originally went to the void. What? I'm like, what the hell, Ginti? She's like, didn't you go to the void place? And she's like, Harada, but he's a dummy, right? It's not really him. And she's like, what's up? And he says his soul hasn't come back yet. But we see his soul is at the very end, right? Because there were two souls that came out of the body. So that was him, wasn't it? He was just like drugged or knocked out, or was it even his soul? Was it someone else's? I don't know. She's like, how do you get it to come back, the soul? And he says, you need a soul to cast into the void in its place. So it makes it sound like somebody has to go to the void no matter what. Somebody has to go in. Unless, at this point, I don't know what exactly is truth and what exactly is not truth. After next episode, we can speculate about that. But I don't want anybody telling me like, oh, this is what it means until we finish the series. But at this point, I'm like, does anybody have to go to the void? Does anybody have to be reincarnated? The rules seem to not apply or have not been what we've been thinking they are the entire time. And she's like, well, what if his soul doesn't come back? And then that's when he says the dummy there. He's like, you get this. And she's like, oh. And she just sees the dummy there. And she's afraid that he's going to become like that. She's like, he says, I want to settle on a soul to cast in the void. And she's like, am I not good enough? And she sacrifices herself to the void. So she sacrifices herself in his place. Which, the thing about Mayu is it's like if you look at Mayu versus Chiyuki, Mayu's death was a complete accident. It was a horrible stroke of fate. And Chiyuki's was a choice. Chiyuki chose to kill herself, and Mayu just died by pure accident. So you have two very, very different situations. But what I kind of love about what we get with both of their characters is that Chiyuki didn't believe that there was anything left in her life worth living for. And so she almost like welcomed death. She was expecting it when she showed up. She's like, aren't I supposed to be dead? This is what I thought was going to happen. So she was like welcoming death. Whereas Mayu never really thinks about death. Like, she gets mad when she dies in that one episode, but she never really like is like, oh darn it, I'm dead. She's just like, well, damn it, now what? You know, she's so vibrant and full of life. And I love what she tells Ginti, saying, this is my choice. What I choose to do with my life is my own. And I agree. She's like, I pity you because you don't have a choice in who you can be. She's like, I can choose my identity and my destiny. You have no choice. And Ginti seems to like get back at her by saying, well, you're going to the void anyway, so ha ha ha, who has the last laugh? And does that. But then it's like, that's it. So you're left in what position, Ginti? So it's fascinating, right? Now, I wanted to go back to the guy. He's like, do you know what kind of place the void is? And she says, no, I don't. And he gets mad because he's like, you're reckless and an idiot if you don't even know what is there. You'll sacrifice yourself without even knowing where you're going. He's like, it's a space containing nothing, a graveyard for souls. Your mind is all that remains. Terror, regret, despair, it's a sensation of falling forever while embracing all of your negative feelings. That's the kind of place the void is. But that's just what Ginti's been told, right? Because at the very end, when she falls into the void with who she believes is Harada, and maybe it is, we see two souls go at the very end, maybe it was him, she doesn't seem sad. She's happy. So she made the choice. She was okay with it as long as she got to be with him. So it's like Ginti's just telling her what he has been told and what he's been programmed to believe. But is that really, but he doesn't even know what it is. He's just going on with what he thinks it is. It's like, well, what do we do with that, right? And she's like, there's no way. And he's like, no kidding. That's why I arranged for someone else to take his place. So we have this, is that Light Yagami? I was like, in the moment, I was so worried about this. Oh my God. I was so worried. I was so worried about this episode stopping. I'm like, is that Light Yagami? That looks like him. Y'all were telling me there was a crossover at some point. You said that Death Parade and Death Note have something in common. Was Light Yagami there? Oh my God. Did Light get sent to the void? I think Ginti would talk to Light for 2 seconds and send his ass to the void, like, without question. Oh my God. Like, I don't know. Light Yagami's like planning like a 4D chess match, and Ginti's just gonna be like, get in the elevator and go. I'm not even gonna waste my time. That looks exactly like Light Yagami. If that is the fourth wall breaking, if that is the Easter egg that connects to Death Note, that's freaking hilarious. I love it. Won me over, show. I'm all here for it. Yes, please. Oh my God. And then we get to her in the ice skating suit. To her with the ice skates, and they show up. I find it interesting that she has the ice skating costume that was like, again, going back to, we don't know exactly how Nona gets these things from the real world because she was not in that outfit when she died. So, but then again, Nona gets alcohol from the real world, so maybe she could get it. Who knows? Maybe it's thrown away, and maybe they threw away her ice skating clothes in the trash and Nona picked it up. We don't know. But yeah, we go back to Ginti with Light Yagami in the waiting room saying humans all behave the same way, like idiots. And Mayu's like, really? They forget that someday they're going to die. The moment they come face to face with death, they cling to life. That's why up to now, I've never had second thoughts about my judgments. But that's a funny thing because it's like Chiyuki, she didn't cling to life at the end. She was ready to go. So it's like Ginti, I think he's only going with what he's seen based on these games. And, you know, he hasn't seen the same experience that Decim has, right? And with Mayu, like, she tells him straight up, she's like, I don't know what the meaning of life is. I don't know what the point is, but it was my choice, so I'm okay with it. Like, I feel mad because Ginti's logic is flawed. And it's so cruel what he does to her. Like, he tries to make her choose between the person she loves and a random person. And Mayu, to her credit, she's like, I can't pick that. She's like, I can't choose. Mayu's like, I don't want to. She's like, that's not fair. And it's not. So I'm like, that's so cruel, Ginti. I'm like, I love Hisoya to death, but I love that Mayu's like, she's like, who is this person? I can't just sentence somebody to go to the void. She's like, I can't just do that without knowing who they are. He's like, do you need to know? He says, what kind of person would it take to cast Hirata into the void? And she's like, there's no way I'd ever do that. And Ginti's like, so you've already given me your answer then. And she's like, that she would, it's so sad. I hate it. And she ends up sacrificing him, doesn't she? Yeah, and that's Ginti's point, is that they do anything to save themselves. But for her, it's not even saving herself, it's saving him. I hate that, right? That makes me so mad, because Ginti tricks her into, again, we talk about the last episode, where the point is, you're kind of like screwing them into a corner. You're putting them in a position where there's no good choice. They're choosing a bad choice either way, right? If she chooses to sacrifice the person she loves, that's going to look bad. If she chooses to sacrifice a stranger, that's going to look bad. So Ginti gives her like, it's like one of those optical illusions where the stairs don't go anywhere. It just stays in like a paradox. It is a paradox. Like, she has no choice but to choose a bad decision. And he created that paradigm. So it's like, and he's so proud of it. I'm like, Ginti, you gave her no choice. So yeah, of course she's going to pick to save the person she cares about, but she was ready to sacrifice herself, and he wouldn't accept that as a proper answer. And I'm like, what the fudge? The skating scene. The skating scene is gorgeous. I love Yuri on Ice so much that this was like such a great homage to that. And I was like thinking of Yuri on Ice the entire time. The animation on the skates was beautiful. It's so romantic too, because when she walks in and Deckham's like, you look lovely in that, I'm like, it's like freaking Beauty and the Beast over here. Like, stop. But what I loved about it was that as she skates, you have all of the memories come back, and it's really the music, the piano is like light. And I love that we have the idea that the dummy plays the piano, but it's lighthearted and whimsical at first. And then I love that moment that she like does the flip and it goes into her middle school years. The music like goes dun dun and like has this big beat, and like it suddenly the melody changes and it just evolves as it goes. But this entire part of the episode where it's just this dance through her life is so beautiful and well done. I absolutely love it. I wanted Decim to skate with her. I wanted them to do couples skating. I wanted them to do the whole 9 yards, but no, we can't have that. So yeah, her showing up, and she grabs her showing up and asking him like, am I dead? Why am I here? And then she says, how did I die? And she's crying. And for Decim, crying is supposed to mean that you're sad, but she's smiling, meaning that she's happy. And that's the melancholy of it all. She's happy that she's happy she's dead, but then she's also sad because her life's over. It's just, oh my God. Ugh. And Decim doesn't understand it. And then we get the whole thing with Nona. And Nona had this all planned out. Nona knew exactly what she was doing. Because the moment she figures out that Decim wants to keep her around to judge her and could possibly have feelings for her, Nona was playing like a secret matchmaker. She was like, oh, well, we'll just leave her here and let her be an assistant arbiter and it's fine. And Clavis has been there the whole time seeing all of this. Yeah, Nona had planned this from the beginning because she wanted to see Decim, the arbiter with human emotions, how being around a human might help like trigger those even more. I like that she has her hands inside her suspenders. It's cute. And he asks, can you allow me to conduct her judgment? And she says, why? But he's like, I don't know. Yeah, he can't articulate it, but he's like fallen in love with her, and he has this connection with her. And he wants to know more about her. He wants to understand her. And it's like the most beautiful thing. I'm like, damn it, show. What are you doing? And then Nona's like, She's like, fine, but I'm going to leave her here for a bit. And to go get her belongings, to go get the children's book, the skates, the outfit, everything. Yep, she leaves her there to go get everything and bring it back. And then we see her reading the storybook as a kid, her skating along with the others, like growing up and just having, like, skating was something that she loved. It was like her best memories. And we see her making friends through it. And then we even see her, like, at one point, she has the birthday, and we see her skating and going through her memories. And I love that you can, like, hear the ice skates as it gets closer to her injury. But we see her, like, everything the trophy that she got for skating, and seeing her grow up, seeing her mom being proud of her as she skates past, seeing the book next to it. And we see her just growing up, right? And there was something there too. And the moment that you see, like, the friends standing next to her, I thought for a hot second that it was going to show, like, her friends, like, being snooty or something, or jealous of her accolades. No, they were totally supportive of her, right? But we'll talk about that here in a second with the whole thing. And then her parents getting her the new ice skates. And then her mom taking the photo of her, like, graduating from school. And shows her with the dolls there. And then we see her spinning. Now, at one point, we see her, like, out for New Year's with her friends. And then we see her, like, arm in arm with what looks like a man. However, I mean, I don't think she's with the man in the end, though. I think she just goes on a date with him, but I don't think they're together in the end. If it turned out to be, like, Decim, I'd be like, oh my God, really? But no, because we don't see his face. But then we see her, like, have the accident. Now, there's not the guy there, so I don't think they were still dating. And her hair's longer at that point, so it may have been some time pass. And the visual of as she finds out about her knee, the knee part of it splits open. Oh my God, y'all. And that's when she falls. I love the Memento Mori. I love the end card there. She says, I hurt my leg and I had to go to the hospital. I learned I would never skate again. And then she says, no matter what anyone said, I didn't understand. But I couldn't tell that to anyone. And that's kind of like depression. You know, no matter what anybody tried to say to cheer her up, it didn't relate. She couldn't understand, and so she couldn't tell anybody. So it's like her just being depressed from losing that ability. And just the rain represented there. And then her mom trying to talk to her. And her mom tries to say, she says, I loved watching you skate, Chiyuki. But then she says, but what made me happiest was seeing you grow up as fine as you have. Like, her mom tries to spin it and say, like, oh yeah, it sucks that you can't skate anymore, but, you know, that's okay because you've grown up to be a really good person. So it's fine. You know, it's okay. It's fine. You've grown up to be a good person. And Chiyuki says, no, I haven't. She's like, no. And that's when she starts to cry. She's like, I've not grown up to be a good person. She's like, all I've done is tie myself to this. And it's so horrible. She says, it wasn't the fact I couldn't skate anymore, wasn't what was hard for me. There were lots of other things that were more important than just skating. Like my family, my friends. I had lots of pals from skating. I didn't even know what it was that was so hard for me. And you can see like her hand starting to come across too. But now I do know. Those dear friends and pals of mine and even my family were all strangers in a very real sense, right? They weren't me. I hadn't realized something as obvious as that. Everything that was so important had become so hollow. I felt I really am nothing. Yeah, that's so, it's that reality of what, because honestly, you know, you're shaped by your experiences your whole life. You're shaped by the things that you like. You're shaped by the people that you know. You're shaped by the place that you grew up. But you're also still you. So she had grown up and attached so much with skating that she loved. The friends that she made were friends through skating. The family moments that she had were all through skating. The people and everything that she held part of her identity to was through skating. So without that, what does she have that's her, that isn't influenced by it? And it's kind of like looking the dark side, because Mayu and her kind of have a similar crisis happen where Mayu's like, I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what my purpose is, but I love Harada, and so I'm going to do things for Harada because that's what I love. And Chiyuki is like, I loved skating, and without it, I realized I don't have anything to fall back on. I have nothing in my identity that I care about outside of this. And that the people that I'm associated with because of it, yeah, they're family and friends, but they're not me. And without skating, I'm not me, even if I have them around. Like, it's such a hollow and sad moment. She's like, when I thought about that, I started hating myself terribly. And then she said she took her life. And I like that Decim, because Decim doesn't know what that's like because he's never lived or died, he doesn't really have a comment to say about that because he can't possibly relate. He doesn't know what that's like. So he's just like, just kind of sits there and listens to her. And then she says people just can't understand each other. It's wrong to want to understand each other. And I hate that. I hate that she says that I hate that she says it's wrong for people to try to understand each other because it's not possible. I hate that because it's so sad in that moment. And she starts crying. She's like, to figure that out after I'm dead is so cruel. And she says, life, I mean. Because she starts to think that life was pointless because, of what happened with her. And I love that Decim goes back and says, when humans are happy, they smile. And when they're sad, they shed tears. And he's like, so what emotion are you feeling right now? Because you're smiling, but you're also crying. And she's just like, well, obviously I feel sad, right? And he says, is it wrong for me to want to understand? I love that Decim throws it back at her. He's like, you told me I need to judge people and understand them. He's like, I want to understand you. He's like, is that a problem? He's like, what if people want to know each other? And Olivia says, I would like to know more about you, Miss Chiyuki. I'm like, it's so freaking cute. I'm like, oh, Decim, sweetheart. I'm like, I'll let you know all about me. I'm like, oh, my heart. He says, I've never even so much as lived, let alone died. And he says, I don't know the correct way to express this, but I'm truly glad to have met you, Miss Chiyuki. Yeah, she's helped him realize stuff about himself, and that's kind of the thing, is that it's like when you compare Ginti to him in this situation, you have Decim who he's so glad he met Chiyuki, and he wants to know more about her because she's helped open his eyes to the world around him and how people have lived, which has been kind of his MO this whole time. Whereas Ginti has tsundere walls. He's like, I don't want to get to know people, so he just wants to get rid of Mayu. Ginti wants to get rid of Mayu because she's bringing up some hard truths that he doesn't want to talk about, and Decim wants to talk about the hard truths, and he wants to keep her Chiyuki around, and it's like, ah! And I love that she just has glittering eyes staring at him. And then he's just staring back at her. And I don't know if she sees the eyes of the arbiter and is like, what do we do with this? She's like, you're an immortal guy. She's like, I like that you like me, Decim, but I'm turning into a mannequin right now. I don't know what we can do with this. She's like, listen. He's like, what is it? I love it. And she's just like, Decim. She's like, I'm just a little soul trapped in this mannequin, and you're an arbiter. This is not going to work out. She's like, it's nothing. I hate it. I want them to be together, and this show isn't going to let me have that. Is it? Is it? Mm-mm. And then he makes her the drink, right? He drugs her. He says, the memento mori. And then, yeah, she drinks it, and she's like, oh, that's good. And then clunk. Because he didn't drink it. He says, I'm terribly sorry. So I'm like, and then poor Decim, I don't like seeing his face look that sad. I'm like, Decim, what are we doing? What are we doing, Decim? Because he knocks her out. Meanwhile, Ginti says the place where Harada's soul is. So he's going to send her to the void. He's really going to wake up, right? And he says, yeah. And so that's when so I guess Ginti wasn't lying. He did send her to the void, where his soul was. So he asks Mayu what Harada is to her. And she's like, my life. basically. He says, what would your life be like if Harada wasn't around? And she says, what does that mean? Are you making fun of me? And he says, answer me, what meaning did it have? And she's like, I can't tell on my own. Am I not allowed to live without meaning? So again, you know, Chiyuki had skating was her life. And without it, she didn't see the point in living. Mayu, for her, Harada is her life. But she's just like, I'm not going to think about what it's going to be like if I don't have him. That's stupid. She's like, who cares? And he's like, not someone else who doesn't know. I like that Ginti has been trying to find the meaning of life. He's been trying to find the ultimate existential question, the answer to it this entire time, and nobody knows the answer because that's the point. And I like that she like flips the question on him. She's like, what about you? What's the point? She's like, what reason do you have to do this? And he says, there is no reason. I'm an arbiter. That's why. And she's like, oh. She says, then I pity you arbiters. And I love that the moment she says that, the cat's like, I'm getting out. I love the cat jumps over and is like, oh, nope, Ginti's pissed, gonna leave. Love it. I love that moment where the cat's like, oh, no. He says, what are you talking about? She says, I decided for myself. Maybe it wasn't a life that others would be proud of, but I'm the one who decided to devote it to Harada. Yeah, I kind of love that. I love that she's like, look, our lives are our own. I chose to devote it to him. So it's my life. So that aspect of control that she's getting at, she's like, you arbiters don't have any control. You just have to do what you're told because that's how you're programmed. She's like, I pity that. And there must be meaning in that by itself. The idea of that choice. And Ginti's like, wouldn't that be nice? And she just looks down at Harada. I can't believe it flipped over though. And he says, that's that. And like his hair looks like flames coming up from the behind. Ugh. So they go in this like matrix elevator and they all start to crumble away. Right? And that's when she tries to get Harada to wake up and they all float there for a second. Floating around the elevator. And that's when she sees Harada for a second. And she gets happy. And is excited to see him, and then that's it. And then there's the souls. And they become one, yeah. So there's just one soul. Oh, that's so creepy that they become the mannequins with their hands connected. Oh, that's so creepy. Oh, man. What do we do with that? Because then we go back to the end credit scene, and Decim is asking, he says, I have a favor to ask. And Queen's like, yes, what? He's like, can I have you send me some memories? And we have the one of Chiyuki right next to her. The thing of it is, I feel like Decim, she told him everything about her life and what happened. So why does he need the memories, right? She's talked to him. So why does he need the memories for the judgment? Unless he wants more than just her memories. I don't know. And Queen seemed very eager to give him the memories. So what's happening there? Meanwhile, Nona says it's happening. I'm just about to forward them. So the question is, does Nona know this is going on right now? Does she know that Queen is giving him memories? Did she see this coming? Because then Oculus shows up and he's like, you're being a naughty girl. I'm like, what are we gonna do? And then we have him with her near the elevator. So what's gonna happen now? Like at the end of the OP. So what are we doing? Why? What is happening? What is he going to be doing with her? What's going on? Why? I hope you know I can't wait until the next episode. That's just not going to happen. But yeah, I'm very sad that Chiyuki took her own life. I'm really sad about that. I'm sad that Ginti shucked Mayu into the void with Harada. With that whole thing. I want Ginti to get the answers that he wants, but that's like asking the $1 million question, right? And then with Decim, what's he planning? What is he planning? Why is he taking matters into his own hands? What's going on? So, oh my gosh. I really cannot wait for your comments down below. I'm very excited to hear what y'all thought of this episode, but it was beautiful. I loved it. I loved the entire skate sequence. And now we have one more episode left to find out what the hell's going to happen. And I'm like... So, in the meantime, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yeah, I'll be back very soon with the final episode of Death Parade. Bye!